Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. And I just wanted to start off by reading the ICLI vision. Uh, ICLI vision is to be a center of excellence for developing and sustaining a progressive, vibrant Islamic community center and a nurturing environment for the society at large. Now, with that in mind, I would like to introduce Nadeem Gangat and Imran Gangat, and uh, they're the bright individuals from our community. Nadeem and Imran Gangat is the founder of a non-for-profit organization called Finfluent, and they have taken the initiative to raise awareness on the fundamentals of finance to empower the youth, which on a micro level is very much in line with our vision as a whole. So the topic today is the importance of financial literacy, and without further ado, I would like to pass the stage to Nadeem and Imran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, my name is Nadeem Gangat, and I'm a senior at Syosset High School. And my brother here, Imran, is a sophomore at Syosset. And today we're going to be talking about financial literacy. And Imran, I guess you can go to the next slide. Right. So just to begin, sort of, what is financial literacy? So as you can see on the screen, it's essentially the ways in which money flows throughout the world. It's the art of making responsible financial decisions, and it's sort of understanding how to manage money and understanding how to invest properly. And so suppose, let's say you get your first paycheck or you get some holiday money, some birthday money, how do you manage that and how do you make that money work for you and how do you, spend it in the most efficient way possible? So Imran, you can go to the next slide. And then today we're just going to be covering different ways to invest, proper budgeting skills, and the importance of saving. And I would like to start off with different ways of investing and sort of the importance of investing. Yep. And then, so I think the best way to start is kind of with a quick anecdote. So suppose I offered you $1 million cash, take it or leave it. It's sort of a mind-boggling sum. Or option B, I gave you 1 penny and I told you that that 1 penny would double every day for a month. And, sort of at first hand, it seems kind of obvious, why wouldn't you take $1 million? How is a penny going to grow past that, right? Let's see. So, Imran, and I'm not sure if you can see because the way that the Zoom is set up, but the option A obviously starts at $1 million, ends at $1 million, and option B starts at 1 penny and ends at over $10.5 million. And how did this happen? Well, it's sort of, if we think back to 8th grade math, it's compound growth. And compound growth is one of the most elegant and powerful properties of mathematics. And it really goes to show, like, if you have 1 penny and you double it every single day for 31 days, you'll have $10.5 million. And so if we take this principle of compounding and the power of compounding and we apply it to investing, obviously, 100% return is not really realistic. But we're going to be talking about some of the realistic ways that you can apply this principle of compound growth in a more practical manner. So Imran, you can go to the next slide. So yeah, so how can we realistically replicate this in our lives? So the first step would be to start with what's called a brokerage account or a Roth IRA. And an IRA stands for an individual retirement account. And so kind of the beauty of a Roth IRA is allows you to make contributions to your account. And it allows you to take whatever money you have at the end of an extended period of time. It is a retirement account, so this money will be set aside for upwards of 50, 60 years. The beauty of that is that at the end of that period, you get to take that money out tax-free. And so there is an age requirement for a Roth IRA. It is 18 years old. And so if anyone in the audience is not 18, the other option could be a brokerage account, and you could start that with parental guidance, of course. And you could use Robinhood, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, any of those. And so, really, I think an interesting thing that I would like to pose is, suppose you started with $100, and every month you add $100 to either your brokerage account or your Roth IRA. And within that account or your Roth IRA, you are invested in the S&P 500. That's just the stock market. It's sort of a bound to grow in the future as America continues to grow. And so the S&P 500 grows at a rate between 9 to 10% per year. And so if you hold that account for 50 to 60 years and you keep adding $100 every month, the compounded sum at the end of that 60 years will be over $1 million. And so, $100 may seem like a lot to us right now since we're teenagers, but hopefully as we grow in age, our income will grow and we'll be able to contribute a lot more. And so that end sum can be, multiples of $1 million. And so that kind of reflects the idea of steady contributions. And none of this is possible unless you continually invest the same amount or a higher amount each and every month. And so it also demonstrates the really the importance of discipline and continuing to.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Nadeem. Go ahead.
Oh, can you mute everyone except for the brothers?
Are we good? Or?
We're good, brother. Sorry.
Okay. And so I think it kind of highlights the importance of discipline and kind of keeping that steady contribution throughout those 50, 60 years. Now, it can be easy to say, hey, I'm just going to pull my money now. I'm going to go spend it. But it really highlights the idea of long-term thinking and the benefits that you will reap at the end of that 50, 60 years. It's truly amazing. All right, Imran, so you can go to the next slide. So here I kind of want to talk about the different ways to invest, and the way I have it set up is it's increasing in risk and it's decreasing in fees. And so I guess we can start off with mutual funds. And so mutual funds are essentially when you pay someone to typically actively manage a portfolio for you. And so I think the key word there was you have to pay them. And so there's a fee entailed in that. And I'm a big believer of analytics and I'm a big believer of research. And the data tells us that when you look at all of these comparatively, mutual funds have the worst performance. And I would assume that the fee aspect of that has something to do with it. And so that brings us to index funds and ETFs. And so index funds and ETFs are essentially baskets of stocks. And you can invest in these and an example of an index fund would be the SP, or an example of an ETF would be the SPY, which just tracks the S&P 500. And index funds were created by academia. And so the index funds basically track an index, right? And they track the broader stock market. And so as I said in the previous slide, you will typically assume around a 9 to 10% return annualized. And so that's definitely a smart idea a smart way to invest in my opinion, because you're essentially investing in America, right? You're betting, if you will, on America continuing to grow. And so with ETFs, like I said, you are betting on a basket of stocks. And so kind of the main benefits of index funds and ETFs are one, diversification, and two, sort of long-term benefits and long-term thinking. And towards the right of the spectrum, we have stock picking. And so this is definitely high risk. And it's, as we know, with higher risk comes higher expected return. And there's no fees associated with stock picking. However, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because there was a study where they had monkeys throw darts on a board, and on the board were names of companies. And so they tracked the performance of the companies that the monkeys just randomly threw darts at. Then they compare the performance of those stocks with the performance of the top hedge funds in the world. And to many surprise, the monkeys actually outperform the hedge funds. And so it is extremely difficult to outperform the market and get better returns than 9 to 10% from the index funds and the ETFs from picking stocks. But it definitely is possible. And like I said, it's sort of, it can become a hobby for some people. And if you're really good at it, you can make some serious returns. So Imran, you can go to the next slide. And so, I think while we have our investor caps on, we need to remember that we need to uphold the integrity of Islam. And so that sort of implies following Sharia law. And so Sharia law are sort of the set of laws that govern Islam. And so we need to keep in mind that we need to be investing in companies that don't violate Sharia law. And so if you have an index, or if you have an ETF, or if you're just stock picking in general, or if you're going to invest in a mutual fund, you need to review the holdings of those funds to make sure that none of those companies are violating Sharia law. And so one way to sort of mitigate that risk of investing in something that does violate Sharia law is investing in what's called the S&P 500 Sharia. And that is already has a predetermined list of companies that are sort of resonate with the law itself. And that's easy to follow and easy to invest in. Another way would be to avoid companies that provide financial services on interest, and this would imply banks, because in Islam, we can't have interest, right? And so just following that idea, companies should donate some of the income that comes from interest-bearing accounts, and a balance sheet should consist of liquid and illiquid assets. And all these rules will sort of comply with Sharia law. And of course, we can invest in companies that are dealing with, haram things such as alcohol, for example, pornography, and things of that nature. So Imran, you can go to the next slide. And so Imran and I actually created this Google Sheets portfolio tracker, and we will provide a link at the end of this recording, and you guys can either take a picture of it, or I will figure out a way to put it in the chat. And so it's fully automated. All you need to do is type the name of the ticker in the leftmost column, and then you write the number of shares that you purchased in the very next column, and it'll automatically pull data from the Google API. Now, this will definitely work for ETFs and individual stocks if that's what you plan on doing. However, I'm not entirely sure if the Google API supports mutual funds and index funds. It might, but that could definitely be something you can look into. But yeah, like I said, we will be providing this for you guys at the end. And Imran, you can go to the next. And yeah, so just to end sort of the investing segment, Albert Einstein once said, "Compound growth is the eighth wonder of the world." And I think I definitely agree with this, as we saw in that example. If you sort of play your cards correctly, and you really use compound growth wisely, the benefits can be truly incredible. And so really the only limit is your rate of return, right? So if you can invest in an index fund or an ETF and you can gain 9 to 10%, that's great. That's awesome. You can have $1 million at the end of 50 years just investing $100 a month. But let's say you explore stock picking or explore real estate, which we didn't really talk about here. But real estate it's much more difficult to execute just given the laws with Sharia law. But you can definitely get upwards of 10% returns through other means like that. And so really the only limit is your rate of return. And with that, I would like to say that Imran will be talking about budgeting and saving next. So there you go, Imran.
So what is the importance of saving, and what really is saving? So we're going to get into that in the next slide. So saving is putting money aside to grow in ways like Nadeem said before, in index funds, mutual funds. But what we're really focusing on with saving is building long-term wealth and not short-term wealth. And so what short-term wealth might be is you having that new Supreme hoodie or the new Off-White hoodie, right? But long-term wealth is being able to sustain yourself for a very, very long time and really compounding, like Nadeem was reiterating on. And so how can we save? Well, the first way is you can track hidden fees. Netflix, Spotify, Hulu, they all have monthly subscription fees, and I'm sure a lot of us have things like that. But what we need to focus on is, trying to hold back on some of these subscriptions and trying to mitigate our losses and expenses with things like Netflix and Spotify. And so just really keeping track of what your hidden fees are and making sure that they're not creeping up on you is an important way to save. The next thing is to avoid the YOLO and FOMO mindset. And what do we mean when we say YOLO and FOMO? So YOLO stands for you only live once, and FOMO means the fear of missing out. And so, I'm sure a lot of our friends have these Supreme hoodies and these Bape hoodies, and it might seem cool to have it, but again, that's building short-term wealth, and what we're focusing on is long-term wealth. And so you want to save and try to stay away from these hype brands to build this long-term wealth. And another thing with YOLO and FOMO mindset is what's called staying away from market euphoria. So, you might know a lot of people who run Robinhood accounts who are just putting all their money into Tesla or all of their money into Bitcoin. And this can be really, really risky. And just trying to trade in and out of a Robinhood account or a TD Ameritrade account, you could lose a lot of your money very, very quickly, especially with things like options, which are going to expire, right? And so you want to avoid the YOLO and FOMO mindset. And another way for you to easily access your money and make purchases is debit accounts. So we want to avoid savings accounts because of Sharia law in Islam, because you don't want to get interest on your account. And with savings accounts, the interest rate's very, very low. It might be 0.1% or 0.01% even. And so debit accounts are a much, much better way to easily access your money, and you can set up a debit card, or even for high school students, I know I have one. It's called a high school checking account. So you can go to your local bank, set up one of these high school checking accounts. You don't get interest, but you can easily access your card and make purchases for things that you need. And the last way is for long-term growth with compounding growth, like Nadeem was talking about, mutual funds, ETFs, index funds. 3 easy ways to invest your money and grow it over the long term. So what is budgeting? When we talk about budgeting, there's really 3 steps to creating an effective budget, and there's 3 key ideas that we need to follow when we're making these budgets. So your first thing that you need to follow is setting your goals, and what are your objectives? Where do you want to reach financially in a certain amount of time, and what are your milestones financially? Second thing is to make a plan to reach these milestones. And then third, you need to consistently update your budget and check your budget, because if you keep on doing the same thing, what is the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to work eventually. So if you consistently check your budget and adjust your habits, you can improve your budget, and become much better financially. So how do we make a budget? So the first step, we've got to track our daily spending. By tracking your daily spending, we can see, just with a budget setup, why we're in the position we're in currently financially. So if you're in a position that you're happy in, you might not adjust your spending as much. But if you see that you're tracking your daily spending and you see that you're not happy where you are, you'll see why you're in that position, and then you'll be able to adjust on it. It's important to see why you're where you are and then improving on it. Next thing is you got to determine your income and expenses. And then based on that, you're going to be able to adjust your spending habits in step number 3 over here. And then finally, find ways to increase your net income. And that's basically based on what your schedule is, how much time you have, and what you want to do. And there's always ways for people to increase their net income. And just like we did for you, there's a budget template. And so in the leftmost column, you'll see what income is. So you might have a tutor income, monthly investments and savings. And based on this, you'll be able to see, where's my daily spending at, what am I spending and how much income am I making and how can I improve upon this? What can I cut out and what do I need to keep? And so that's really a good way to make a budget and a good way to save. And yeah. So thank you guys for listening. And here are links for our portfolio trackers. Nadeem, I don't know if you know how to put that in the chat.
Yeah, I will. I will put the link for the budget template in the chat. I think I put the portfolio tracker in the chat. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And if you have any questions, please ask us.
I mean, that was very good.
So Nadeem and Imran, that was amazing. Thank you so much. It was really, really awesome and very, very helpful. And I think this could be the first step to many others where we can really break this down into smaller session. And I know overall, this was an amazing presentation, but I do feel that getting kids involved on a personal level and helping them set up, budgeting and walking them through to small little steps, I think that would be an amazing idea for a lot of our youth in our community. Is that something that you guys can, inshallah, over time see?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we can do too.
That's amazing. You guys, I know you guys are amazing in what you guys are doing. Is there anything that you guys publish or your own social media or something that where the youth of the community can follow? And of course, we would love for you to be at ICLI and do a lot more events like this now, inshallah, hopefully with things opening up a little bit over time. But is there any particular social media, Instagram, Facebook, or something where you guys post up information where you feel that some of the youth of the community can benefit from that?
We do have a website. It's fin and then -fluent.org. And so, Imran and I, we do have Instagram, but I guess that's sort of like more personal. We don't really.
Okay, got it. No problem. So more professional is the website where people can get information.
I can put the link in the chat as well.
Oh, that's amazing. If you can kindly do that, people can definitely, and once we post it up to our other social media platforms, we'll be able to link it.
Great. Yeah, we will. I'll put the links right now.
One quick question that some of the youth might have is, what is too small of an amount to start? Sometimes people are scared, kids are scared. Oh, I don't even have anything. Where do I even begin? So how would you sort of guide those individuals and youngsters that, even if it's a small amount, just begin with anything, as you mentioned, even a penny, accumulating over time. So how would be able to answer some of these concerns for our youngsters?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure as to, one second. Yeah, so I'm not really entirely sure as to how much money people have to work with, but I would say, like, for someone our age, I think $100 is relatively reasonable. And I think, if you keep $100, if you start with $100 and you have a side hustle or some job or some means of getting $100 every month or $50 every month, and you just sort of put that and you throw money into an account, a retirement account, as crazy as it sounds to be planning for retirement at age 18, 15 or whatever, I really don't view it as retirement money. I view it as more long-term thinking and long-term investing. And so, yeah, like, the amount of money and it's truly asymmetric. And so I think in life, we really need to participate in things that are asymmetric, and things that really will, the risk reward is truly skewed in our favor. And so I think $100 is very reasonable to start. Of course, I would not recommend things that are more speculative in nature if you only have $100. If you're going to buy things like Bitcoin, if you're going to buy things like Imran was saying, Tesla, that's extremely risky, and you can't really diversify that much with $100. So if you're looking to really get that full portfolio where you have 1 to 2% of your assets in something that are speculative, and then the rest in something like an index fund or an ETF or a very safe set of stocks, I would say $1,000 is reasonable. But I think if you're just looking to get that index fund or ETF exposure, I think $100 is, and then of course those $100 contributions each month, I think that's reasonable.
Correct. That's amazing. But Moiz, you have a question? I have another one, man. I'm so impressed. I got to ask a lot of questions.
Go ahead, Mufti Farhan. I'm learning from your questions as well.
Okay, so Imran, Nadeem, a question that comes is that through social media, things are viral, right? TikTok, this, that, and every other video that you see of people make this much in this much time, this much in that much time, side hustle, left, right. Mm-hmm. And I see that a lot of kids getting out of focus and from a path that's productive in a long run, right? So what do you guys suggest? I know you guys are young, you guys go through this and you see all that. What's your perspective on this?
I do think it's, just seeing on TikTok, and you're seeing all these different side hustles. You're seeing people, do like wholesaling houses and making 30 grand in 2 weeks. I think it's definitely easy to like get sidetracked from that long-term thinking. But I think it's that, again, I think it's that fear of missing out, FOMO mindset. And I think it's something that really need to avoid. And we need to accept the fact that there are no shortcuts in life. And so, you can get lucky, but luck is never something that we should rely on. And so I think really the only thing that we can rely on is thinking smart, thinking wisely. And I think, thinking in the long term and hedging our bets and making smart choices is really the way to go. Yes, I think it is easy to get sidetracked with what's it called, side hustles and different things that people are doing. Some people may say, oh, try this option strategy, you'll make 500% in 1 week. I don't think that's really reasonable. I think there are people here on the internet that are definitely trying to, sort of just grab as many people as they can and have a massive following and have people buy their programs. And when people try it out, it doesn't work, and they end up losing $1,000 that they spent on some course. I think that's a dangerous trap you can fall into. I don't know if Imran, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and one thing I want to add is, you might see a kid who's like 15 saying, "I just made $10,000 in options trading." But what's important to note is the ones who are losing, that might be 1% out of like 100%, right? He's the only one posting because he might have been the only one who actually made money. The other 99% probably lost, and obviously they're not posting. You need to understand that it's very rare that you probably will win in these very risky and speculative trades like Nadeem was talking about with things like options and risky high volatility stocks.
That's amazing. I really appreciate your guys' response that it's just not about that. It's for a much larger cause as well. And with options anyways, it's not even acceptable through many Sharia
Exactly,
portfolios and people. But I really appreciate what you guys just mentioned about, it's about the long term. It's about strategy and looking forward and seeing how you can really benefit on long term. So that's amazing. Any other questions from any of our brothers or sisters who are joining us via Zoom? Please do share with us. If you want to ask a question in your voice, you can always unmute yourself and ask. And if you have any question that you would want to ask while typing, you can either private text whether Imran, Nadeem, or myself, Brother Moiz, and we'll be able to read the chats and be able to answer these questions.
And I would just like to add, when you look at the pros and the best pros, Warren Buffett, Howard Marks, whoever it may be, these guys they're long-term thinkers. They're not making 1 month, 2 month bets. You're making 5-10 year bets with an investment horizon that are much longer than the average person. And so I think what really sets apart a successful investor and someone that fails repeatedly is patience, discipline, and really thinking in that long term. I think that's really important.
Wow, that's deep, man. Patience and discipline. Boys, but you taking notes?
100% agree. Slow and steady wins the race. Slow and
That's
steady.
amazing, man. Patience and discipline. That's amazing. That's beautiful. Love that. So if we don't have any questions, Imran, Nadeem, thank you so much for joining. Do you have any concluding words? This is not the last event that we are having, inshallah. We're hoping to have many more and hoping to have you guys involved in our youth work in ICLI and much more to come, inshallah, this year. And hopefully you guys leading many things in the center for many of our youth, inshallah. But before we conclude, Imran, Nadeem, if there's anything that you guys would want to share before we depart, inshallah, for this session.
Imran, you have anything to say?
I think you pretty much, wrapped it all up with, patience, discipline, and long-term thinking. You can grow exponentially. Your portfolio can grow exponentially.
Yeah, and just to add about investing, before you go out and buy something, it's almost always not a great idea to buy something when someone just tells you to buy something, regardless of who it is. I think there's true value in research, and I think it's crucial for any investment, and you should never go out and buy something or express your view on something without really developing a true conviction on that idea. And I'll leave it at that.
I agree with you, Imran. You just have to be patient, research, believe in Allah, and make sure everything you're doing is halal and the investments are clean, and just go with that. And like you said, start with anything you have. You don't have to put in a whole lot of money. Just start with anything. Start saving, gather the funds, and move forward, inshallah. And it will keep you away from TikTok and other crazy ideas.
The balance is very important, right? I think the balance is something that what our faith really teaches us, right? And that's what something that a lot of people begin to lose is the sense of balance. And that's what our faith really teaches us with our prayers, with our zakats, our certain worships during the day, during the year, during the months, just so that we can synchronize and sort of rejuvenate our. I think it's just the best mix for us. But with that, I think we should conclude, right? We're good?
Yep. That's everything.
Brother Moiz, we're good?
Your voice is cutting off a little bit. I'm not sure if it's my end.
No, I think it must be me. But thank you so much, guys. I guess we'll conclude at this. Brother Nadeem, Brother Imran, thank you so much for being with us tonight. On behalf of the entire EC and the committee, we're thankful for our youth who are getting involved in the work in Islamic Central of Long Island. And we're hoping to, inshallah, see a lot more involvement for our youth, our work, a lot more engagement, a lot of more fruitful work, inshallah, that is coming. And for all those who are listening, please keep yourself connected some way, some shape, some form to the house of Allah. This is an anchor for all of us to be protected. And once again, to Brother Nadeem and Brother Imran, thank you so much for joining us and presenting. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah.
Assalamu.
Okay.